Okay. Hi, my name is Kieran Tong. I've been training with martial arts since 1982. So over 30 years, I've been training. I first learned Hungar and Choy Lee Fut, but now I've specifically focused on teaching Choy Lee Fut Kung Fu. They're both southern styles of Kung Fu, which I learned from my first Sifu Seng Jeorng Au in Honolulu, Hawaii. And now I learned from the Grandmaster Choy Lee Fut, he's the fifth generation direct descendant of the founder, Chan Heung. His name is Grandmaster Chen Yong Fa. I, I practice Choy Lee Fut Kung Fu, which is a southern Chinese martial arts. And the basic history comes down to 200 years ago, where a man called Chan Heung in Guangdong province in Guangzhou, he learned from his uncle initially at 7 years old, a southern Shaolin style Kung Fu. And as he progressed in his training several years, he became well known in the region as a great fighter. And eventually he started learning from Li Yao San, who was another great master in that area, Sun Wei area. So he studied for 5 years. And then later on, at that point, they found out about this monk called Choy Fuk. He's a monk that came down from the northern Shaolin temple after the burning of the temple, which is about less than 200 years ago. And he went down the southern Shaolin temple, but then he ended up in what's called Mount La Fo Shan. They traveled there to go visit him, and he kind of convinced. Well, he had to convince him basically to become a disciple of Choy Fuk's. So after Lei Yao San left him with Choy Fuk, then he stayed with him for 10 years, studying Shaolin Kung Fu, medicine, Chinese medicine, as well as the Lohan Qigong. So right now I teach the Choy Lee Fut Kung Fu and the Lohan Qigong. So the Lohan Qigong, it comes back to Bodhidharma, or Damo in Chinese or Japanese call him Daruma. So nearly 15 years ago, this Indian monk, Bodhidharma, he traveled to China and ended up in the northern Shaolin temple. So he created this. After seeing that monks and his followers as well were kind of falling asleep during meditation, and their bodies weren't as strong as they could be, he developed these exercises called 18 Lohan. It was actually initially it was passed down only through the temple, in the Shaolin temple, for many years until the 200 years ago, when the temple got burned and destroyed. So that's when it got nearly lost until the Chan Heung found Choy Fuk in the La Fo Shan. And even within the Choy Lee Fut system, the Chan family kept the Lohan Qigong within their family for 5 generations actually. And then my Sifu, who's the sixth generation, or you can say the fifth direct descendant of the founder. He left China during the Cultural Revolution and immigrated to Sydney, Australia, where he's based out of now, and from there he spread around the world. There's been other masters, his father's disciples and his grandfather's disciples, that moved to the United States and around. But I study from him though. Every so often, every couple of years, I go to China, and my international brothers, we all meet, and it's a lot of fun.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so as you do your forms, yeah, you are learning basically principles of being a good person, being able to move and defend yourself, but also help others and defend them. When we do martial arts, we're not about going and picking fights with someone else. You eventually, as you grow as you get better in your martial arts, as you train harder, you learn, besides respecting your elders, your self-respect, and you're learning to treat others like you want to be treated. So you're not gonna, even though you're learning movements of self-defense and applications that can injure other people, you're learning to preserve other people instead of injuring the other people. So that's why in the olden days, actually the masters, they were actually doctors and martial artists. So they would learn, besides injuring people, they would also help people. So yeah.
Good answer. So what about the movements within the kata? Are they truly effective in a combat situation? Do they have value, or is it just a dance?
Okay, so depending on the martial artist, how much they train and how much they focus on their intentions. When you're training, you need to not just walk through the motion, okay, but you have to actually put your emotion into the movement when you're actually practicing. So in that respect, it becomes part of you, part of your reactions. If you do that, then when you're attacked on the street or something, then yeah, you can react to it and use it effectively. If you're just moving through the motion, like a lot of kids, they do that, they just walk and do the motions. It's hard for them practicing that way to actually learn to react on the street and actually use it effectively. So.